Okay people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Tonight I'm taking a look at the Bandai Figure-rise Standard Dragon Ball Z Super Saiyan Goku model kit. Like I said when these were first announced, I'm not super familiar with Dragon Ball. I remember watching it back in the day, but there was a lot of drinking involved back in the day, so yeah, I get snippets here and there, but I am crash coursing right now. I'm not quite to Frieza yet. But same kind of box, model kit box, nothing special about it. There's some artwork on the front, bio for Goku, and then how the models are set up with the seams in the muscle striations. And then, as seen with a lot of stuff that I get lately, stuff I can't read, but looking inside the box, have the sprues, have two different faces, looks like the hair. The hair is kind of a translucent gold. I'm not sure if I like that. And then the skin tones, you have the hands, the arms, that kind of thing. Looks like the power parts, the ball, the blast. Got shoes, got belt, got the legs, got the torso. Instructions. And these are familiar. This is like the Star Wars ones. Just follow the numbers and go through and hopefully you end up with a figure. I'm gonna go through the model kit. I'm not going to film the whole thing unless I run into some snags. I'll have the figure together and then I'll do a review on the figure itself. So I'm going to get started. Getting the head together, not bad. All these little hair pieces, a little separate, they squeeze together, then they go together. The cool thing about this is the face. It's kind of badass the way they did this. The whites of the eyes, the green pupils, and even the eyebrows are separate pieces behind the face. You start off with the green, and this whole green plate right here is essentially just for the green dots in the eyes, which is crazy to me. I don't know if this is a standard thing for these kind of model kits, but this is my first time with these, and it's amazing. This piece is the eyebrows. It goes into the back of it. Then there's another piece that goes on, is the white of the eyes. And you can already see it forming. And then there's a faceplate that just goes over it, just plugs into the back of that. And apparently there's a decal for the tongue. I didn't even realize that was going to show through. But yeah, the decal has just red stripes. I didn't realize that was for the tongue. But I was afraid the face switching would just be the face and would go over the same eyes. But thankfully, you just pull the hair off and the whole faceplate comes off. And you just switch that out. You put the other one on. And it all works fairly simple, which is awesome. I like that. I like quick changes like that. Okay, I got the neck and the top of the torso and the shoulders together. Not a big deal. Everything's kind of just falling together, but my concern right here is the blue pegs coming off this undershirt piece. That's how the butterfly joint attaches for the shoulder. This blue peg sticking off, it seems like there's not a lot holding it on. As tight as this is, and as tight as this was to put on the peg, I wouldn't get too crazy with this. I'm not saying it's going to break. I'm just saying that it just feels fragile a little bit. Okay, I ended up doing the decals because there were so many straight lines and they were all the right size and they actually came out pretty good. They seem to be higher quality than what we saw with like the turtle kits, which were kind of cheap. They didn't move much. This is a much higher quality kit, at least it seems like so far. And I did it on the face too. I put the sticker on the tongue. It matches all the reds all together. And there we go, all put together. There may have been a couple of things, me getting too excited, which always happens when I'm putting a model kit together. I forgot to put the ankle joint in, went to put the foot on it and there was no joint there. So I had to take that back apart. But it didn't mess up the decals, so I'm not so worried about the decals now because I put that through hell trying to get that piece back apart. So yeah, I think they'll stay on there for at least for a little while. But yeah, I like this figure. There is some fiddly stuff with it. It's not perfect, but what figure is these days? I think my biggest thing is they put most of the seams into the muscle striations. They put it into wrinkles. For the most part, it's hard to see a lot of them, except for the biceps. I don't know what happened there. I don't know why they just didn't make it half and half. Squeeze it together. You have an arm. It's just a seam going around that muscle. It's no worse than the neck, but the neck is there for articulation. It moves. And then if I had to nitpick anything else, it would be the wrists. There's a lot of gap right here. It gives a lot of movement because of the gap, but it's just an eyesore. As you can see, all the colors are good. The orange, the blue. I even like the decals. It's not bad at all. If you didn't know any better, unless you get right up on it where I kind of missed the seam a little bit, you wouldn't know it was decals. You'd think that's just part of the plastic. Now, going through articulation, there's some odd choices here. It works, but it's a little bit different than what we usually see with action figures. There's a ball at the top of the neck. You can get a little bit of side to side, not great. You can get up and you can get down, but that's where the neck comes in. The neck hinges forward and you can get good movement to the front. Not so much up though. The shoulders are a cup. They're hinged to come forward. I thought it would break more than that. And yeah, it opens up a little bit, but not as bad as I thought it would. The arm is pinned in, and then it has this piece that is separate too that comes down over the shoulder ball. Oh, it's a good system. That ball joint there is hidden really well while retaining a lot of movement. You have a bicep swivel. You have a single elbow, but it gets good range of movement. The wrist is just a ball joint, gets all the way around. The torso is another weird point of articulation. It's kind of a ball joint. You can kind of get movement there. The torso itself is on a hinge forward and back, but mostly back to get him to look up more, but he can't really crunch forward. The hips are another cool thing. You can set it to where it's almost seamless. You can see the seam, but there's not a huge gap in it. But you can shift down and shift that in, and you get a lot of range of movement here. You can get out to the side, you can get back. There is a swivel right there, single knee, but it gets all the way back. Not bad at all. Plus, the inside comes all the way around, so there's no break in the knee. That's just beautiful. The boots are on a swivel, but there's a stop on them. You can turn in that far, and then you can turn out that far. You can't turn it all the way around. There's a hinge in the foot, but it is stiff. Because it's a model kit, the sole of the shoe comes off. If you get too crazy with this, it pops the sole off and then the foot falls off. Not a big deal. You just have to pinch it and then move it back. You get back this far, and you get forward this far. Not great forward. And then because that pin goes forward into the foot, you have rocker ankle. Now for accessories, he comes with the two fists, of course. Most figures these days do. He comes with the two open hands, kind of the claw look. This is for holding his ball or the energy blast. And then he comes with the two finger point. In the pictures, they have this up to his forehead. I'm not quite sure what that is yet. Like I said, I'm not that far into the show again, but it does look cool. And to switch the hands, it's just a pop. It pops out, not a big deal. The other hand pops right in. And then he comes with the energy ball. Like I said, this looks good. He's holding it in his hand. And then the actual energy shooting out, the blast. The stand is more clear than it looked like in the promotional pictures. And then of course he comes with the extra face. He's got just the stern, mad looking face. And then if you remove the hair, it comes off easy. The face just pops right off and the other face goes right on there, and then the hair goes back on. It works out great. Nice and quick. Nothing overly complicated to go through. Now for comparison, I do not have any of the Figure Arts figures, but just giving you an idea, the hair goes up to about 7 inches. I'm going to guess the top of his head is about 6 1/4. So it's pretty much a 6-inch figure. Here's a comparison with the Marvel Legends Captain Britain. It's on the bigger Hyperion body. Goku is a little bit shorter, so he fits into that 6-inch scale really well. So at the end of the day, I really like this. Of course, I love the modeling aspect. I love putting the toys together. I love the build. I love finding out the inner workings of the articulation and actually putting it together. Just everything about an action figure model kit works for me. It hits me right in the sweet spot. It tickles my fancy. But saying that, it's not without its faults. Some of the joints pop out every now and then. The ankles are really tight. The gapped wrists. The biceps looking funky. But overall, as a figure and as a model, I dig this. The positives of the figure outweigh the negatives by a long shot. With this figure getting me back into the show, I kinda wish they had started with the early Goku. The Super Saiyan is cool, and I'm not as familiar with it. But then again, this figure comes with Frieza, so it seems like they jumped right into the second arc for the figures. Now, like I said, Frieza came out at the same time as this Goku. I did get the Frieza, and as awesome as this Goku is, I'm looking forward to putting Frieza together. I'm kind of worried about his tail and maybe some other articulation points, but he should be just as awesome. So this is just an example of the action figure getting me into the property. Usually it's the other way around. We love a property, we go for the action figures. I like this action figure enough, it is good enough for me to get back into the property after all these years. So if you like the review, comment, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the Fwoosh. I think in order to get it completely accurate, Bandai kind of cut into the articulation. I'd almost compare this with the First Order Stormtrooper model kit. It's a little bit hindered. It looks fantastic, but like I always say, being a model kit, every little piece is separate. The sculpt is beautiful. All the little details, the edges are sharp. The separations like on the belt, just each pouch is a different piece. It looks great.